The Dust Bowl, also known as the Dirty Thirties, was a time when nothing swept across the land except dust. For people in the 30s, dust was a way of life, with dust getting in everywhere. Families were forced to change the way they lived. All of the kitchenware was to be washed right before the family ate, otherwise they would be eating dust. The dust was so bad, families had to eat as fast as possible so they wouldn't have dust all over their meals. People often looked like coal miners due to all of the dust and mud. Many people thought that the weather was all to blame for the dust, but poor agricultural and farming practices of the 1920s were to blame. Till farming is a method where the topsoil is turned over to remove weeds and add fertilizer. Tilling also allows carbon dioxide, an important soil nutrient, to escape from the topsoil. Till farming was one of the reasons for the Dust Bowl. Oftentimes, farmers would till farm when it was very dry, trying to plant crops without realizing that they were ruining their topsoil. The topsoil was farmed so much it began to get dry and crumbly, resulting in it picking up and blowing away with any gust of wind. Although the dry weather in the Great Plains during the 1930s was a factor into the Dust Bowl, the weather wasn't the only reason. Another example of a poor farming practice is poor crop turning methods. Crop turning is when farmers use tractors or ox-drawn plows that turn the topsoil in an attempt to plant crops. During the time of the dry season in the 1930s, it was difficult to plant any crops, so it was hard to get food. Many farmers, although the rain wasn't coming, still tried to plant their crops anyway. Although the poor agricultural and farming practices were mostly at fault for all of the dust and dirt, the weather didn't help. Precipitation from the years 1930 to 1940 were exceptionally low. Throughout the 10 years, the average only being about 16 inches a year, and in every year, the precipitation falling below that 16-inch average. In 1934, the precipitation was the lowest, reaching only 12.84 inches, which is only about 1.07 inches per month. Plants and crops didn't grow because plants need about 2 to 4 inches of rain a month, and only getting a third of that isn't going to keep them healthy. People wonder if it is possible to have another Dust Bowl. According to Nick Wilkin, digital meteorologist for weather.com,
considering the Dust Bowl is a combination of human action with natural conditions, I think it will be a long time before we see another one. It will take a fairly dramatic shift in the way land is managed in this country, or an extraordinarily severe and prolonged drought.
Like Wilkin says, it will be a long time before we see another Dust Bowl. We now know better ways to practice farming and agriculture, where soil conservation is the focus. The possibility for another Dust Bowl is slim. Some might say that the weather was the only contributor of the Dust Bowl, but without the factor of poor farming and agricultural practices, such as till farming and the turning of the topsoil, it is possible that the Dust Bowl wouldn't have happened. Weather wasn't the only thing that caused the Dust Bowl. It was poor farming and agricultural practices of the 1920s and 1930s. In order to never have another Dust Bowl, we need to keep up the healthy farming and agricultural practices that we use today, using only methods that keep the topsoil healthy and moist, so farmers can plant their crops without harm and destruction to our precious soil. There's only so much soil in the world, and when it's gone forever. Don't ruin the soil and don't cause another Dust Bowl.